All right, this is video number 2 for Module 1, so a continuation of notes. The last video we talked about factors of production and economic systems. This video is going to be a little bit shorter. We're going to talk about every economic decision being every decision you make being an economic one, as well as we will also talk about divisions within economics. All right, so first of all, every decision you make is an economic one. Every single decision you make. Everything down from what you chose to wear this morning, with obviously your limited options when you're going to school, as well as what you had for breakfast, all the way up to what I'm going to do this afternoon, or even what am I going to do after high school, okay? So when you make a decision, you incur what we call trade-offs and opportunity costs. So trade-offs are going to be all the options that are given when a decision is actually made. So all the options given up. So what do you give up when you actually make a choice? So for example, let's go through an example of this. Let's say that I'm just trying to decide what I'm going to do after high school. So my choices I'm going to include are IUPUI, going to Butler, going to Purdue, or going to Notre Dame. Now we're going to assume that I got into all 4 of those choices. And now it comes down to personal preference, feel, major, all of that fun stuff. Cost is an issue in there. So let's say that after I went and visited all these and everything, I chose that I want to go to IUPUI. That's my choice. Okay. Now, my trade-offs are going to be all the other things that I did not choose. Because I chose to go to IUPUI, I can't go to Butler, I can't go to Purdue, and I can't go to Notre Dame. So as a result, those are all my trade-offs. So trade-offs are all the other things, all the other choices that I made. Now within my trade-offs, I will have one opportunity cost. And my opportunity cost is the most desired option that I give up. So in other words, it's second choice, okay? Second place, what am I giving up? So because I chose to go to IUPUI, my runner-up may be, it's like a Miss America contest here, my runner-up may be Purdue. That's my opportunity cost, okay? So keep in mind that trade-offs are going to be all the different things that I did not choose. Opportunity cost is just one thing. It's the one thing that I give up, the second most important thing, okay? I'll give you another for instance. This morning for breakfast, I had a bagel for breakfast. In my house, what could have I had? I could have had cereal, I could have had eggs, I could have had yogurt. Those all 4, okay, all 4 are my options. Now because I chose the bagel, I gave up the cereal, the eggs, and the yogurt. Those are my trade-offs. My second choice of what I could have chosen would have been the cereal. So cereal would have been my opportunity cost. Notice that the opportunity cost is, again, one of the trade-offs. Okay, that's probably the most confusing part of this, is that people get confused about where the opportunity costs lie, and that it does include, it is included as part of your trade-offs. All right, that said, we can also talk about divisions within an economics. So within economics, we basically have 2 different types of economics. We have microeconomics and macro. This class is this is the intro to both of them. So whether you're taking micro or macro, this one will apply. Okay, so this video, because you'll talk about it in both. So within microeconomics, this is going to be focusing on the choices made by individuals and businesses. So this, we're talking about individual businesses that are out there. So for example, if I'm selling my house, that is going to be microeconomics. If I'm talking about the housing market, and so the housing market went through a slump around 2008 where housing prices just dropped through the floor, okay, that's microeconomics. If I'm talking about supply and demand, that's microeconomics. If I'm talking about one individual industry, okay, even if I'm talking about gas prices as a whole, okay, that's still microeconomics. People get confused because they say, well, gas is, bought and sold throughout the world. Yes, but it is one individual part of the economy. It is not talking about the entire, it's not talking about all things that are possibly sold. Okay, so micro is looking at individual things, one little thing at a time. So the demand of a individual restaurant in Broad Ripple, that is going to be micro. Okay, macro, on the other hand, looks at whole countries and the whole world overall. So we're looking at for example, exchange rate. Okay, so we're talking about the exchange rate between different countries. We're talking about trade between countries. We're also talking about aggregate supply and aggregate demand. Now, you just look at that and you're like, wait a minute, you said supply and demand is micro. Now you're saying it's macro? No, no, no. Listen to what I said. And this is a good point to make, is that economics has very fine distinctions between terminology. Please let me help you understand this, is that aggregate supply and aggregate demand is going to be having to do with the demand for all products as a whole, or the supply of all products as a whole. Supply and demand by itself is looking at one thing, one industry. Okay, we're looking at gasoline. We're talking about the supply and demand of a particular restaurant. Aggregate demand and aggregate supply, we're talking about the demand and supply of everything. So if we're talking about big picture, macro. Little picture, micro. Hopefully that helps you make sense of that. I know that it is confusing for a lot of people, even people that make course recommendations don't necessarily know the difference between the two. So hopefully now you can make that explanation to other people when they're making their choices. All right, that's it for now.